Hello, everyone. By my time, we've got 105, so let's kick things underway. I want to thank everyone for joining this Google and Reonomy webinar, utilizing data in CRE marketing. Before I jump into the introductions and the agenda for today, a couple of housekeeping things just wanted to go over rather. First and foremost, this webinar will be recorded, so you will be able to get a copy of this as well as the slides after the webinar. Throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, feel free to chat in. We're going to leave 15 minutes at the end to answer any of that. I know we've had an abundance of questions in advance around the topic and around both of the partners in this webinar as well there. And yeah, without further ado, let's jump into introductions. So today, two presenters for the full hour. Myself here, I'm Sam Viskovich, the VP of Marketing at Reonomy. You'll be able to distinguish through the accent. Originally from New Zealand, I've been in the States for coming on 3 years now, and Reonomy with 3 years, and have got to leverage our own products throughout commercial real estate marketing, but have been able to leverage Google a lot through Reonomy's expansion as we've growing nationwide. And sitting to my left here is someone I've got to work closely with over the last couple of years. Reonomy's really excited to be partnering with Google here, but enough from me. Joel, why don't you introduce yourself, and thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for having me today, Sam. Yeah, like Sam said, my name's Joel. I'm excited to be here, excited to be talking to you guys today. I've been with Google for about 2 years now and working with Sam for a couple of years as well. I've been working with him really to grow the account from the Google standpoint and help him discover new options, new targeting opportunities, and get him to where he is today. So really excited to be here with him today and walk you guys through the different strategies and options we've been working together and show you guys how you guys might be able to leverage some of this information as well.
Brilliant. Again, thanks so much for joining us, Joel. So to set the scenes for everyone, there's a very diverse set of individuals that are joining onto this webinar. We've got everything from roofers in Florida to the headquarters of some of the largest brokerages to people that sell paint supplies. You name it, they're on this webinar. But the unifying element amongst everyone there is how do you market to property owners, or how do you market to commercial property owners there? And today's agenda will be a combination of high level while looking at details across that unifying element there. There's going to be three things we touch on in depth today. The first of those is around targeting. So using all the data that exists digitally and on individuals that we know, how do you get in front of property owners and how do you target them effectively? Secondly, from there, we're going to talk about researching and informing your message. How can you know everything about the property owner that you're going to outreach to inform your pitch, making a more customized message, getting more cut through in any of the marketing campaigns that you have. And the last point we're going to go over is in terms of following up. So how do you use data to make sure that you can send consistent marketing messages, consistent outreach to different property owners in order to close them there. And the last thing you'll see on the agenda there is questions. As I mentioned before, fire through any questions that you may have there, and we'll answer either at the end or potentially throughout the webinar there. So before we get into it, a little background on the companies. You're probably all familiar with Reonomy, maybe less so Google. So I'll let Joel give a little background there.
Thank you. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know a lot about Google, we were founded in 1998. We are headquartered in Mountain View, California. Employee count is roughly 100,000, and we're only growing like crazy right now. Fun fact that Sam wanted me to bring to the table, for those of you who do not know, which I didn't know until last week actually, was Google rents goats. A little fun fact, we have a couple, as some people know, our offices are a little bit extreme in some places. So in some of our buildings, we have grass on top and we rent goats to actually help eat the grass and help control our greenery on some of the buildings. So that's a little bit about Google. And then the reason why I say 100 plus and growing is because we are growing exponentially. We are adding new headcount every single day. As machine learning comes into play, we notice that we're growing like crazy. We are helping out more and more small businesses like yourself, whether it's anyone from roofers to siders to brokers. And we're leveraging a lot of machine learning and people like myself who work with Sam every day to work with you guys on developing strategies and developing opportunities to grow your business and leverage not only our intel, but the different machine learning opportunities that we have and how we can help you guys grow your presence online. So that's a little bit about Google and myself.
Yeah, I'm not sure we can beat the fun fact there. Our fun fact, and I didn't actually realize this until this year, is that the Reonomy logo can actually spell out Reonomy there. I'm not sure if you can see it there, Joel.
I've been trying to find that.
It's tough to see, but those that aren't familiar with Reonomy, we're the largest commercial real estate data platform. We track 50 million assets, and on those, each asset, we track up to 100 different data points there. And then people use Reonomy ultimately to win more business. And we're going to talk a lot about that today and to go after commercial property owners there. In terms of, Joel briefly touched on Google and some of the technology they use there. Reonomy is similar in the sense that we have a data network. So we have more big data that pertains to commercial real estate than anyone else. And then we use machine learning to standardize and connect that data to say that this owner in this database is the same as another owner in another database. So we'll talk a bit about that throughout the webinar now. But with the formalities done, let's jump into it. So step one, targeting. How do you go after target property owners? How do you increase visibility? And I think this is going to be interesting for a lot of people. They're wondering, how have I got served this ad? Is someone listening to me? We're going to break some of the myths and talk about some of the realities here of how to use data for targeting and CRE marketing. To kick things off, with any targeting, the most important thing is understanding what is the purpose of the targeting, because this informs what characteristics you want to go after. I'm going to hand it to Joel here. They can talk about how Google explains to their clients around looking at a marketing funnel that then helps inform targeting there.
Awesome, thank you. So us people at Google, we love the marketing funnel. What you're seeing here to the left is something that we use every single day when speaking to our customers. If you're going to look at it, the way that we explain it is just basically what's written here. So anything from awareness at the very top all the way down to advocacy at the bottom. We're going to get into a lot of the targeting within this presentation, but to give you a sense of what this looks like is, in terms of awareness, it's just driving awareness for your brand or getting eyeballs on your content, whether it be your search ads or whether it be video ads that you want to run. It's really just getting eyeballs there. Different audience targeting options we have with that are going to be things like in market. So people who are in the market or people who are actively looking for roofing companies or people who are actively looking for brokers because they're moving to a new city. It's people who just want eyeballs on their content. You really want to get your brand across as the competitive field grows. And then that goes all the way down to advocacy. It's going to be things like remarketing, or say you want to target a very specific user, and we have the opportunities to do that through search as well as through custom intent audiences, where you can target very individual people. If you know exactly what they look like, if you know that the user is living in Texas and they're shopping at these specific sites, or they've been to your site and you want to show your ads to them one more time, we can get very granular and show your ads to very specific people. So anywhere from just kind of driving eyeballs at the top to targeting a very individual at the very bottom of the funnel.
Yeah, I think to add on to that and maybe paint that picture more, if you were a broker in St. Louis, at the awareness side of things, you'd be saying, how do I get in front of every property owner and build out my brand as a broker? Then on the consideration side, it's maybe as a broker, you're saying, how do I go after property owners in St. Louis that are potentially looking to sell more and market there? And on the action side, it's really, how do I go after property owners that are really at the point of selling and my most ideal customer there? And that falls nicely into the slides there, or rather the data points on the right there. From a Reonomy point of view and how we coach our clients, is very similar to Google there. That awareness side, it's saying we have 50 million commercial property owners. If you want to market to all these property owners and then build your brand across, that would be at the awareness stage. At consideration, that would start to be getting a little more granular, saying, hey, I want to maybe look for multifamily property owners that have owned something for 10 years. And the action side of things could be, hey, I want to go after property owners with big portfolios that have been selling a lot of assets in the last few years. So again, this pipeline, this funnel here is really important in understanding what's the goal in order to inform what type of targeting you want to do.
Exactly.
And then in terms of how do you apply this, between Google and Reonomy, you can pretty much chase down any property owner however you want. It's really the full suite, I call it, the marketing side of things. Do you want to briefly touch on the Google side of things here?
Absolutely. So when it comes to Google Ads, these are the 3 different platforms that we offer our advertisers. So search, maybe you don't want to have display or any video creatives. You just want to target people strictly through text. And that's where search comes into play. Search, you're also able to leverage keywords, which I'm going to get into in the next slide. But search is really going to be targeting people just through what you have to tell them in text. Display, say you have some awesome visuals and you want to target people through our display network. Display is a really great way to target those individuals with beautiful images. And then YouTube, obviously, that's video. Video is going to be a lot more upper funnel, as we just mentioned, or awareness driven. So say you want to target people through messaging or video. That's where like the video content comes into play.
For sure. And then from the Reonomy side, if you don't want to do things digitally there, it's how do I call them, how do I send them texts, how do I send them mailers or emails, and we help facilitate all the contact information around that. But let's jump into, in terms of this targeting side of things, we're first going to look at Google and how you can use these different channels, and then what are some of the actual characteristics of which you can target people on these channels. So Joel, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. So Google Ads was built on search. We built our entire basis off of keyword bidding. So what does this mean for you guys? So say there's a user out there who is trying to find roofers for their business. You would then go to Google and you would search roofing companies, for example. Then ads then can appear to that user if you want to put in those keywords into your Google Ads platform. What's nice about machine learning, and I said I would touch a little bit more on this later on, is that now keyword search has evolved. We're making it easier and easier and easier for you guys to target the right people. We're not only inputting different keyword searches, such as, like, again, the roofers who are looking for different roofing companies. We can also target them based on their location, based off of the device that they're searching on, based off of the language. Say it's not just English, it's a different language. We are able to incorporate all of this information now through machine learning and the way that we bid to ensure that these ads are placed strategically in front of the right eyeballs over there based off of what you're looking for. So this is just where search has evolved, and we are growing more and more and more. And it also allows you to bid on different keywords as well. So say you are not comfortable spending over $1 for each of your keywords. You can strategically place different bids on each of your keywords so that you're not overspending as well. You choose how much you want to advertise for, basically.
Yeah, so maybe this be a good example where if you're wanted to bid on someone that was saying, commercial brokers in St. Louis, or commercial brokers they were looking for. You can alter that bidding on a keyword and say, if I'm a broker in Boston, I only want to target Boston, maybe my specific area.
Absolutely.
I want to target certain demographics, clearly someone that's a serious owner. And a cross ID as well.
And say you only want to target them or you only want to serve your ad when they bid that same amount that you're setting it to. Then when they served that ad at that time, then that's when your ad will show at that bid time.
Right.
You're only paying for what you place the bids on each of your keywords.
Got it.
With all this machine learning incorporated into it.
And the other part of this is, am I right, Joel, is that you can really understand what other people are bidding on as well. So like if you're in a market and you're a broker or a roofer, you can start to see what your competitors are bidding on and search and try and make adjustments there as well.
You can see what the volume looks like. And when I say volume, I just mean how many people are also searching for that keyword through what we call our keyword planner. And again, I'm going to touch upon that in a little bit, but you can look at how many different people are searching with that same keyword and is it competitive? Is it not? Do we need to increase our bids in order for you to show up to to the people on the top of the page, or do we need to decrease them? Yes, exactly. You can see exactly what the people are searching for.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Moving on to display. So
yeah,
what the heck does display mean?
So display is a different network than search. So I am a big believer of a full funnel approach. I always encourage my advertisers to not only do search, but also do display and YouTube, because these are entirely different networks and we have different partners there. I think what's important to note here is 4% of the time, people are actively searching for products or services. So it's these people who are searching directly for roofing companies or brokers. Then if you think about it, 96% of the time is spent outside of search. So people are just scrolling web pages, they're scrolling blogs, they're just searching, maybe they're shopping. This is a whole different audience that we can then target those users through what they're currently searching for, and that's through display. And you also get, to have beautiful creative to go along with it, to set yourself apart from others.
And on that note, talking of beautiful creative, so when people are wondering, like, why is this better? Why is this ad following me like this one? That's because someone's found you as a great option to target there, right?
It stands out. As you're scrolling, these things stand out and they encourage you to buy them, especially when we use our different audience targeting mechanisms. We're then able to place these ads in front of your eyes. We know where you're searching. We know where to place these ads strategically.
And we're going to talk in a bit about some of the different ways in which you can serve these ads and who you can go after with these type of ads. But before we do that, much like display, YouTube, also part of the Google network.
Yep. Again, kind of talking about that, YouTube is kind of our awareness driver here. 2 billion monthly logged in users, that's a lot of different people. That's a lot of different eyeballs. YouTube's kind of taking over. In general, we have 8 platforms with 1 billion+ users each. So we're not able to just target people who are searching proactively for their services. But again, to my point earlier, there is a whole different market and audience out there that we can target through creative.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so talked about the different channels. This is talking a little bit more how they all tie together, what you can bid on, right?
Yep. So this is typically what a consumer journey would look like. So this is just an example, but say there's a potential customer who recently just purchased a car. He then goes on his mobile device and he's looking for auto insurance. He's just searching. He's not clicking on any ads. He's literally just searching and decides to go away. Then he comes back and he's on his computer and he's searching. What does he see? He sees a display ad. It's because we're able to then target that user through what he was searching for on his mobile device to then know what to serve him on desktop. So then as he's searching on display, he sees this display ad and then he clicks it because it obviously makes sense to them. He's in the market for auto insurance. He clicks it, he goes on the website, he bookmarks the URL, and then later he does a direct search and fills out a form for a lead gen. And when I say lead gen, it's just trying to get people to fill out forms, fill out quotes, show interest in the site. So it's definitely a way that we're able to target people just based through interest and on different devices.
And I think what's the interesting part and something I've looked a lot into in yourself, Joel, is that a lot of this does apply not just across property owners, but within commercial real estate side as well. Yep. These audiences, what they're looking to do across search and display.
Yep. So then we move into, this is kind of every stage of the journey here. There's what we call awareness, consideration, and action. And again, this directly relates back to the funnel. So awareness being kind of top of that funnel we were talking about before, and then action being the advocates that we talked about. We want them to fill out a form. We want them to make a phone call. We want to be directly to these users as close as possible. So diving in a little bit here, let's go through some of these audience targeting options that we have. So we have these like demo, including demographics, affinity, and custom affinity. What does this mean to you guys though? These are people who are sports enthusiasts, for example. These are people who are in the real estate business. These are these very big groups of people that we are able to target and then we're trying to drive eyeballs. Then we move into consideration, which is like in-market and life events. So again, these are people who are in the market for your business. These are people who are searching directly for roofing companies. These are people who, in terms of life events, maybe they just got married. We know these different things. We know these different life events. And then we move into action. And action is going to be a lot more what we call custom intent, where you are able to create your own audience. And you say, hey, I want to create an audience that's with these specific people who are going to these specific websites. You're able to incorporate keywords there. There's remarketing, which we'll touch on in a little bit. And remarketing really is just a way that we're able to retarget users who have already been to your site. We know who these users are, and we want to retarget them. So if someone is looking for roofing, again, I'll keep using that as an example, and they go to your website, but maybe they haven't filled out any form or maybe they haven't called you yet. We are then able to retarget those users and place the ads back in front of their eyes so that they don't forget about you and end up converting or making that quote or phone call with you at the end of the day.
Yeah, so I think like a couple of the interesting examples from the affinity side. So the targeting there is on the left-hand side, the goal across the top there. Yep. From an affinity side, you can target people that are interested in commercial property, buying and selling there.
Yep.
Life events, I think one of the interesting examples you mentioned was you can target people that have recently moved as well.
Yeah.
So people that potentially have high net worth individuals that have moved into a new area as well.
Yep.
And then getting really specific around where consumers have been. We know within commercial real estate what type of websites people might be looking at, and you can target on that as well. So there's a lot of detail on the slide, but there's a huge amount of actionable action for people to target.
And I like that you said when they move, because I think that directly relates to your business specifically. And that's what we've been working together as a partnership is we know when users move and they input a new address, we're able to then target those users and their new location as well as websites that they're going to help serve more leads for you guys over there.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Thanks so much, Joel. So that sort of concludes the Google part of targeting there. I think the takeaway there is there's a huge amount of channels of which you can go after. And there's a long tail of different ways to target people that I can attest to that. And it takes more than a webinar, but getting into the weeds to understand all the different ways in which you can get in front of commercial property owners there. So taking the baton from Joel and Google there and talking about Reonomy, and much like Google, Reonomy is a tool to target property owners. The first part of the Reonomy platform is what we call the Discover section. So it's saying, how do you find commercial property owners that matter to you? As I mentioned on this call, there's a very diverse range of people that are on this platform, and Reonomy can serve them because of our Discover settings there. So a couple of different examples maybe I can speak to there. If I was a commercial broker in California, I could say, I want to find, as the search shows, all multifamily assets that haven't sold in the last 10 years, because what I'm saying is if it hasn't sold in the last 10 years, that is probably a really good indicator that it soon might sell. And I can draw on that map the geography that I care about. So I'm getting a real granular set of property owners that matter to me there. If I was a roofer, for example, I could say, hey, I want to look at buildings that got hit by a storm and draw where that storm was in Florida. And I could then say there was no renovation, or there was no, or was year built was before 2000. Those older buildings that are more likely to need a roof there. And the last example we'll give there, maybe on the refinance side, and say I'm an originator and I want to find property owners that are likely to need refinancing. I can search by the upcoming maturity date, or I can search by the particular lender of that loan and the asset type as well. So there's about 300 searches within there, and I'll give a shameless plug that you can sign up for a free trial of Reonomy and search it for yourself. But all in all, these different filters help you to customize your perfect client or your perfect owner and go after it there. So first and foremost, you discover, you're finding out who to go after. The second part is, okay, how do I reach out to this person? And this is really the juicy part, the part that when we demo in person, someone goes, oh, wow, that's scary, but that's cool. What Reonomy does is we pierce through that LLC and we find out who the owner is. So in this case, the LLC of this asset was Sunstone Century LLC. And we've gone through that and said, Janice there is the correct person, the principal of that asset. There's their phone numbers, there's their email, and there's a mailing address as well. So once you've got that curated list of property owners that fit your ideal customer, you can actually outreach to them through cold calling, through mail, and through email there as well. So that's the major use case of Reonomy, and what people use this for is that ability to get in contact with the actual decision maker and save time around LLCs there. So that concludes part one around targeting. I think we covered a lot of ground there. Joel, we might have gone slightly over time on our portion there, but I think targeting. Whenever you think about data and marketing, targeting is really the backbone of it. It's what's evolved the most in the last few years. You only have to look at Google's market capitalization to understand where targeting's evolved from. And again, I would recommend playing around with both these tools to get a full sense of how you can go after property owners from them.
Exactly. At the end of the day, targeting will save you money by knowing that your ads are being placed in front of the right eyes, depending on what your goals are over there.
For sure. So the second portion we're going to talk about here is what we call research, so informing your message. So once you know who to target, what is the creative? When I say creative, what is the display ad you're sending? What is the mailer that you're sending? Or how you cold calling and reaching out to them. And I just want to pause here and maybe explain why is this important. So this is a bit of a crude slide saying you and your problem, but as a marketer myself and as business owners on this webinar, our biggest problem is that we're competing for attention. So we are competing with thousands of different marketing messages every day. And we're also competing to get attention of consumers that are more skeptical than ever before. Trust in business is lower than it's ever been before. And people are forgetful. With all this information, people are forgetting what are the details talked about. I can't even remember the start of this webinar that Joel and I were going on, let alone the slide here. But within 1 hour of talking to someone, 50% of a conversation will be forgotten about. Within 1 week, it's 90% of a conversation. And that goes across all different types of marketing messages there. So it's really important to curate the message that you put in front of people there. I think another stat I found there was 52% of consumers and 65% of B2B buyers, so people buying from businesses, say they're likely to switch brands if that message is not customized. So it's of huge importance to nail that part after the targeting. So how do you get all the information on people there? What could Google tell us about who we're going after, Joel?
Yeah, so this is probably my favorite part about Google, as well as my relationship with Ben and Sam over here at Reonomy, is the fact that we're able to provide all these different insights based off of the data that we have. We have all kinds of different platforms over here. This example that you're seeing right now is just what we call our audience insights. It tells you basically who your audience is and where they're going, what their interests are. And I love to pull these different stats and show Sam over here, where is your audience going? Where are more of our targeting options? My favorite thing is really just stumping the advertisers and saying, hey, did you know that your advertisers are also interested in X, Y, and Z? For example, say someone's searching for roofing, but they may also be interested in shopping. We can then know that your advertisers or your clients are searching for roofing, and on the side, they're also searching for shopping, or maybe they're sports enthusiasts, and we know that they love looking for swimming articles, things like that. We are able to...
I'm trying to think of an advertisement here that's like, need solar, but want swimming wear.
Yeah, exactly. No, these are just kind of what's coming top of mind to me right now. But we're able to pull a bunch of this information that shows, you may think the people coming to your clients are a certain person, but we can actually pull information showing that maybe they're not. Maybe they like to spend their time elsewhere. That's through these audience insights, which I love to pull. We have a ton of different, keyword planning options, which you can see that within the Google Ads interface. We can pull the keywords, where is the audience going? If someone is searching for brokers in New York, for example, how many people are actually searching for that? How big is that keyword population? How much do we need to bid? We have auction insights, which show you how you rank against your competitors. We can show you, are your competitors getting top of the page bid? And when we say top of the page, it's just when you're searching and the very first placement that shows up is either your advertisement or maybe one of your competitors. We can tell you where you rank against them. We're able to pull trends. If someone is searching for brokers in New York, when is the busy time? When is going to be like spikes season? We're able to pull those trends and pull when your advertisers are potentially raising their bids or increasing their investment and help you guys stay ahead of the curve there. So there's a ton of different research that goes behind the different targeting options and the different platforms that we work with our advertisers on. And these are things that I love to work with Sam and Ben on, just in terms of let's try new audiences, let's try new places, let's really place your ads in front of these people.
For sure. And I think, you know, when you see a banner ad or following you around and you're like, that seems way too relevant to me, or the copy on it sounds, you know, really, really relevant to you, it's usually a marketer that's done their work and looked at who is the audience I'm going after. You know, if you're targeting property owners, Google can help you understand that at this point in time, there's going to be more property owners that are maybe interested in buying or in need of those services there. So that means that you can adjust the timing of it. And as Joel also said, you can also know more about the demographics of it. So if you're putting a creative that has different individuals in it, that can help you, make a relatable creative so it shows what your ideal customer looks like that you're serving the ad. And then, if they're interested in certain fashion brands, maybe you could, I don't know how you're going to get creative there. Maybe you can put the person in Nike clothes. If all property owners like Nike, you can serve an ad that has a property owner just wearing Nike. Maybe that would work.
We can get creative together.
Yeah. So
we have the research behind it.
There's a huge amount of options there in making these adverts really relevant there. And in a similar fashion, so talking about Google, understanding your audience when serving banner ads, YouTube's videos, and any keyword bidding, Reonomy can help you really understand the owner that you're going after, whether that's through mailing, whether that's through emails, whether that's through cold calling. And we do it in two ways. The first way is how do you understand the prospect or the owner that you're going after? And there's a lot of information we can provide on that. The first and foremost thing is their portfolio. So you can see the example here with search John Smith. There's probably a lot of John Smiths in the US, but if you search any particular owner, you can find all the assets that they have under their control, regardless of the LLC. So I don't own commercial real estate or any real estate in the US, unfortunately, but if you type Sam Viskovich and Reonomy, there's a guy that owns 3 plots of land in Seattle, and he has them in a bunch of different LLCs. Now, if I wanted to reach out to that Sam Viskovich and buy his assets, I've got a really good picture of what's under his management in order to customize that message and paint this picture. If you would receive a mailer and how many mailers you receive all the time and you put down, but if someone sent a mailer and be like, hey, I see your portfolio of 3 land parcels, looking to sell one, that's going to catch a lot more attention than it is just the generic blast as well. The other details around any property owner that we can give you is what is their total debt that they have. So Reonomy tracks 20 million mortgages. You can start to get a feel for, do they have upcoming maturity dates? What is the total loans that they've taken out? Other details are sales transactions. So how active has this owner been? What type of volume have they been investing? What areas are they interested in? What asset classes? All this detail is going to help inform the pitch as you cold call, text, or run those mailing campaigns. And again, like we said at the start, the big issue we have is how do I grab attention for someone that's getting bombarded with so many marketing messages? This curated knowledge of a property owner helps immensely with that. Similar, without just stalking property owners and knowing everything about them, understanding the market. This is really big on the brokerage side of things. It's when you reach out and you want to win that business, you want to sound like you are the most informed person on the market to your property owners. So Reonomy helps in a number of different ways here. By tracking every single asset, when you reach out to a property owner, you can customize that pitch to be talking about what other assets are transacted in the same area, what are comparable assets that we should be looking at by knowing what they previously paid for the asset and what other assets are transacting now, tailoring that pitch to really show the value to a property owner there. So I think between all the details that these two platforms provide, there's a lot of ways to cut through the noise and make a really informed pitch there. And I noticed a flood of questions came in after the that section there. So our intern in the corner will help bring those questions for the end. But lastly, the third element, I'm losing my voice here. So we covered targeting, we covered researching and making an informed marketing message coming through the noise. The last element in here is following up. So how do you get multiple touch points on a property owner to ensure that they are getting the message through? And again, starting with the why here. The average person doesn't make a decision on one piece of marketing material. You know, I think as in commercial real estate, we're really guilty of that. You know, we want to close a deal on the spot. We want to get the person that's perfectly there right now. It takes usually 7 touches for someone to take action or to see impressions. I think one of the great examples I've always seen is, we call them roofers, when they wait for the storm to hit and they reach out to property owners after a storm's hit. That's too late for effective marketing. You want to be getting in front of property owners throughout the year, so that when the storm hits, you're the person first and foremost. And I guess coming back to this slide here, Joel, this is where remarketing and on the Google side is really effective to follow people.
Exactly. So just to bring up the slide one more time, remarketing is going to be one of the most effective strategies if you're trying to use multiple touch points and get your ads placed back in front of a user's eyes. So say brand is something that you're not worried about. People know your brand. They know who you are. They know what you do. That's fine. But say they also know other brands in the area as well, and you want to ensure that your ad goes back to them at the end of the day. They've been to your website. They know who you are, but they're kind of in the market, and they're still kind of looking around at different opportunities within the area, and you want to follow that user around, and you want to remain top of mind for that user. That's where remarketing comes into play. I think one of the best strategies we have here is remarketing. It really helps close the gap. It really helps ensure that your ad is placed back in front of that user's eyes. Going back to here, this is kind of how we explain it. So there are 2 types of remarketing that we have here. One's dynamic and display. But to put that into terms that might be a little bit more simple to understand, dynamic is really just, you've looked at a very specific product on a website. I'm sure this has actually happened to a lot of the people here, where you're shopping, you click on a product, or you click on a very specific shoe or nails or something.
This is my story. I was buying some Nike shoes.
Yes.
30 days ago. It's still following.
It's still following you around. That is what we call a dynamic. So you can do just very specific products or services that you guys have there, or we have static. And static means is that you don't have any products, but you just want a plain image ad to follow the user around. So it's not product specific. So basically how it works is a user goes to your website. Once a user is on your website, we offer tagging. And what tagging means is that there's a little snippet of coding that gets placed on your website. And when that user comes to your site, we then tag that person. We tag that unique user. And when they leave, we then filter that through all of our machine learning, our AI, and we take your display ad and we then place it in front of that user over the course of like 30 days or so that your ad remains very top of mind for them. And at the end of the day, you're ensuring that you are going to annoy them. You are going to be in front of their eyes until they fill out a form or until they give you that call. You want to ensure that you are following them around and that they are, yours at the end of the day. So this is kind of how remarketing works.
Yes, and I think why you always see good bang for buck in remarketing is you spend so much money on building a brand. You're that broker in St. Louis, you've got in front of all the property owners, they finally come to your site, they've decided now's not the right time to submit for, inquiring about listing their property with you, but you want to be front of mind and you want them to change that decision or rather make that decision there, and remarketing is so effective in doing that.
Exactly.
So in terms of talking about how it works with Reonomy there, for us, what we see most effective with our clients is on building out campaigns, marketing campaigns, using our lead list. So I talked before about the example, multifamily owners that haven't sold in the last 10 years in California there. So this list of, say you get 2,000 property owners there, it's nurturing that list over time so that eventually they make a decision with you. So what does nurturing look like? Or what do I mean by nurturing? That can include sending a mailer once every quarter so that you're front of mind with them. And that can be a mailer text combination. It can be a mailer and an email combination there. I think, one of the interesting stats that pulled through recently for Lob is a mailing company, and 6% of people respond to mailers from their standards, yet 20% of people respond from a mailer and an email together. So once you can start building out these campaigns that combine different channels together, as well as being able to, on a repeatable basis, you're much more likely to get that response from all the marketing efforts that you've put in place. So finally, bringing it all together. So at the start, we showed this slide. Maybe a few people were wondering what are all these colors doing here, but hopefully everything we've talked about links back to this or made sense throughout. The 4 stages of the funnel, from awareness, we were casting a really wide net, right down to advocacy. How do we get repeatable business there? So how do the two tie together there? Google and Reonomy, from the top to the bottom down. So the top, we talked about awareness. Yep. Joel, you talked a lot about affinity audiences, custom intent. So how do we find people that are broadly interested in commercial real estate? Yep. That are in market to making purchases on commercial real estate.
Yep, those very large eyeballs that we're trying to, or very large reach of people we're trying to get. How are we trying to make a name for yourself out there?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so the targeting is broad, and you're using channels like YouTube and display there. Similar on the Reonomy side. You're building lead lists. If you want to, again, target all 50 million property owners, good luck to you, and you can go after them there. And you're using channels like email and direct mail to build out that campaign. So that's top of the funnel. How do I build my brand? How do I get everyone knowing that I'm the best broker in St. Louis there? Moving down the funnel, consideration. So how do I get a little more specific there? So we talked about similar audiences.
Like similar audiences. We talked a lot about like the custom intent audiences. How do we influence people to consider you? Maybe your brand isn't necessarily as big of a deal, but maybe you still want to have a branding portion of your campaigns. We're still able to get a little bit more granular with YouTube and display, but still help your brand overall. So we're slightly moving down the funnel, not as necessarily just trying to blast your brand out there and really help you, but get a little bit more specific when it comes to targeting through YouTube and display.
Yeah, so the difference getting down the funnel might be, hey, I want to target someone that, it's between this age bracket, or these demographic information, these devices, or just to help get a little tighter on that audience you want to target there. Yep.
Or maybe they're in the market, as we mentioned, maybe they're in the market for a new housing in the New York area, for example, or for roofers in California, whatever. Maybe they're in the market for something. So it's a little bit more granular, not necessarily something very broad, just slightly lower down the funnel.
And then on the Reonomy side, again, instead of like taking these broad lead lists or owner lists, you're getting really customized. So you're applying those asset filters, distress filters potentially, year built filters. And then that's going to help with more direct outreach. So cold calling, texting, SMS, customizing. Both of these allow you to customize that pitch and the creative like we talked about, but knowing more information on the individual there. And the last part is really how do you get really granular on what you're searching there. How do you get people to take action there? We talked about.
Yeah, like we know who we want. We know who you are. We know we want to place our ads in front of you. So it's very lowest of the funnel. And this is where really like the remarketing and the customer match comes into play, where we're able to target someone very individually.
And likewise, and then on the Reonomy side, it's like, hey, I know I want to target that Sam Viskovich in Seattle, and I want to serve him ads that show I know everything he owns. Potentially you want to run comps or comparables on assets that you work with to find similar owners and talk about, hey, I just sold this property. Now I want to outreach to similar owners. And then that portfolio as well, really understanding everything that they own there. But I think that mainly covers the content for today. We've got a lot of questions there. Yeah. We've got about 11 minutes there. If you have any additional questions, please fire away there. But I'm going to start going through these questions now. There's a question slide. So just bear with me 1 second there. So the first question was from Cameron there. I would like to know, is there an integration with Reonomy and Google? That's A great question. I'd love there to be an integration. We're working on it, Cam. I think one of the unique things is that we do actually partner with Google on the map side of things. So it's a different sector of the business there where we work together, but not on the external outreach side of things. They're two different systems there, but glad we could start today on a blossoming relationship, Joel. Maybe you can talk to Sergey.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe one day we can get there. We work very closely together, just in partners, and not everyone actually gets an account strategist like myself. So the fact that we are able to work together, I think that's definitely been a highlight to our relationship. So maybe one day there'll be an integration, but for now, hopefully Sam likes me and likes to work with me, and hopefully I'm doing the best I can for him.
There you go. So we had a question there on Reonomy coverage to start with. The question was residential versus commercial, and I should have stated this at the start. So Reonomy's 50 million assets is everything outside of a single family home. So we have a very liberal definition of commercial real estate, includes vacant land, duplexes, and everything outside, side of a single family home there in that nature there. Second question there is around accuracy, and knew this question would come up. Of course, one of the most common questions we get is the accuracy of the phones, names, emails, and numbers. And I think, and how do you ascribe a value to that? The thing we always say at Reonomy is we're not 100% accurate on our data, and anyone that tells you that their service is 100%, you should be concerned around that. The variability in our data coverage depends on, or accuracy rather, the particular area that you're in there. But I think the difference is understanding how certain people collect data. So a lot of people in the industry's approach to collecting data is through call centers. So they'll call owners and they'll try and validate information or get the data around that. Our approach is we get our hands on as much data as possible. So we literally have billions of data points of contact information and people, and we use machine learning to our people algorithms to work out what are the most accurate there. So in that sense, it's I always frame it as a relative argument. Our data is, I stand by, relatively the best in the industry because of the approach we use to collect data there. But it's definitely not 100% accurate, and wouldn't want to set those expectations there. Couple more questions on Reonomy here, not to steal the talk track, Joel. Reonomy versus competitors there. There's a few different things. Around Reonomy versus listings platforms to start with. So I think I'll address that one. So Reonomy doesn't have a listings platform. Listings platform being, how do I market my a property that is actively for sale? Maybe Google should build one there, Joel. No, but instead, how people use us is how do I get in how do I find property owners or potential buyers that might want this asset. So really facilitating off-market deal making there. So I think the difference, we pitch there is off-market versus on-market. There's a lot of benefits of off-market deal making. I think first and foremost is the speed of which that transaction can happen. But if you're an investor or property owner, there's obviously more benefits than potentially maybe a broker that can help drive up a higher price there as well. But I think the main benefit there on versus listings or doing off-market deal making is the speed in which you can get a deal done there. Sorry, I'm just reading through questions here. Yeah, so Joel, question for you here. Touch on AdWords here. This is from Cheryl. Can you talk about the correlation? Is there a correlation as to the type of keywords or phrasing that applies to the segments of the funnel?
Yeah, so with keyword targeting, it really happens towards the bottom of the funnel through search. You can use it through our custom intent audiences that I touched upon before. You can insert those keywords in those audience and target those people if you're trying to get in front of those specific users. But in terms of the keywords themselves, there's really no correlation. You can use it directly if you want to only only want your ads to show up during very specific searches. You can use like single word keywords. You can use phrases. We have different types of keywords, and I'll try not to go too in the weeds here, but we have like what we call like our broad, phrase, and exact. So if you really only want to show up when someone searches for something exactly within our Google search engine, you can show up then. If you want to show up, if they're searching for a phrase or something with a couple words added here or there, you can also show up there. And then there's broad, which basically, as long as they have any part of what your keyword is within their search query or within what they're searching for on Google, you're then eligible to show up. So we have different types of keywords. Keywords are really used for search, but as I mentioned, you can add the keywords into audiences if you're trying to target upper funnel or YouTube and display, and target those users through those keywords as well.
A lot of questions here around using Reonomy targeting wise. First one there was, how would you go after just sorry, can you scroll back? I'm just reading this. Identifying a commercial buyer, in your opinion. In my opinion, the best way to go after a commercial buyer, if you've got a particular asset in mind that you want to sell, would be running comparables on that asset to find other buyers. So when we launched in New York, the most common use case was brokers that was selling a building wanted to work out who owned next door, because in New York, the most common person to buy a building is the person that owns the building next door. So I always suggest running comparables there, and also finding who are some of the bigger buyers within a region, or who's been really active in a portfolio there. And then question here around, what would you say is your competitive advantage over your biggest competitor in the commercial real estate world, particular to Reonomy here? So whenever I think of Reonomy and what we do unique is the way in which we collect data. So the fact that we have a larger data network than anyone else. We announced exclusivity with the likes of Dun & Bradstreet. We're about to come out with a big one next week. These are really the titans of data. It means that we have more data than anyone else. And our machine learning technology means we can action it. So in a practical sense, when you're making a decision between us and other products there, the first and foremost thing is the coverage of data. 50 million assets we have is of magnitude more than any other provider there. So you will see just go to coverage there, which means there's more deals to be won. There's more deals to be won. There's better decisions to be made when making investments there. Secondly to that is the usability of it. There's 300 search filters to find things that matter to you. The ability to discover opportunities is a lot easier in that sense there. And then the third part is really on the outreach portion. So when you are reaching out to owners, the accuracy of that contact information, the consistency of having contact information, and then the portfolio of element, really sets us apart as a tool. I would say, to get a better picture of how people have made those decisions, read some of our, testimonials on actually on Google reviews there. They speak for better than I can myself there. But when you understand how different companies collect data, it really helps to paint the picture of what's the end product there as well. We've got a couple more minutes here. I'm going to keep trying to answer these questions. I'm definitely not going to get to all of them. A couple other things. Another couple of Reonomy questions. Can you export? Yes, you can export data. That's how a lot of people will run. They'll put their information into a dialer or other systems to do that, streamlines their marketing. Question here on Reonomy: can you target specific businesses with Reonomy? So something we released this year that was huge was tenant information. So we track 11 million commercial tenants, which is significantly more than anywhere else. And so a lot of companies are using that tenant information, their contact information, to go after them as well. So what's an example of that? Say you wanted to sell to biotech companies, you could search by a NICS code of biotech companies and run marketing campaigns that way as well. Question for Joel here from Jim. Thanks for the question, Jim. Are there Google research examples directly for commercial real estate?
Yeah, I would just say, I mentioned this earlier, just in terms of the research that we offer and that we work with our advertisers and clients on every single day, are just kind of what our insights are. In terms of commercial real estate in general, we see a lot of just people who are in the market for real estate. Those typically work really well. I would say too, a lot of what has been successful with us has been custom intent. So allowing us to implement exact keywords or URLs that maybe you think that your clients are going to. You can put those into this audience type of targeting, and then you can target those users going to that. I would say that's been working really well with us, and just trying to identify that audience with our partners here.
I'm going to go, Joel, you got a couple of minutes? We'll go slightly over. There's a lot of questions. I'm not going to get through all of them. We'll follow up. Question around what data points would be most advantageous for a commercial broker who would target properties that are likely to refinance? Yeah, commercial mortgage broker, just restating that there. The first case I usually see for a commercial mortgage broker is they'll be working a particular, they'll know a particular interest rate that they could beat. For example, say, and I shouldn't name it, I would say, Bank of California did loans in 2010 within this area, and the rough interest rate was this. It would be building that list and going after those property owners and beating them on that side of things there. So usually people are searching by, or really on maybe the sophisticated side, particular commercial lenders and targeting their existing loans. The other way to do it is upcoming maturity dates. So what is it up, what maturity dates are happening in the next 6 months, and reaching out to those property owners to see if they need bridge lending or refinance from there. Question from Matt. As a quantitative research company, what are some data sets that you feel are the most lucrative to sell to real estate agencies? I think, if I'm understanding this question correctly, the thing people care most about, to be cruelly at it, is the ownership information. Like, it has historically been damn hard to understand who owns a building and how to contact them. And I say that with I didn't realize how big of a problem it was until I joined Reonomy. So I think that's always a huge part there as well. Maybe Matt, if you sort of follow up, I could better understand the question there as well. Troy asked, can you email out a link to the recording of the session? We definitely will, and we'll send a follow-up there on that. But I don't think we're going to be able to get to any more questions, or else I'm going to be here right for another hour. But if you have any questions, feel free to ping Reonomy's intercom, or rather web chat button on the website, and we'll directly answer it from there, or follow up with an email. But wanted to thank everyone for attending this webinar. It had been a resounding success. The number of people that had subscribed to this blew me away in the thousands. And a huge, I want to say huge thanks to Ben on my team, who has been in the background here, who helped facilitate this and set up all the details and the content around it. And of course, a huge thanks to Joel and his team at Google for joining this. I know a lot of people are excited to see Google talking the commercial real estate space, for being here today, and also being a great partner with us.
Yes, and thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Hopefully we can do it again. I'm trying to rope, give us some good feedback so we can rope Joel in again.
If you guys want a round two, just let us know. Happy to do it.
We'll do it. But again, thanks so much. And if anyone has any questions, please ping us afterwards, and we're happy to help with them.